We're live. Right on. Welcome, Drum Nerd family. We're just going to hold down. Let's see if I can even talk and do it at the same time. Yep, guess we can. We're just going to hold this polyrhythm 4/3 for a bit. Let everybody log in. Join the chat. Hope everybody had a good week. Not the easiest to do while holding down a polyrhythm, but we'll keep it going. So we will just hold it here, as I said, for a few minutes. Let everybody join. Just holding this polyrhythm down. Another minute or two. Let everybody settle in. Grab the drinks. Right, enough of that. I got a bit hypnotic, to be honest. A little bit of a 4/3 polyrhythm going on there, which we will address at the end of the lesson there. So, as the title says, again, we'll do a bit of overview here. Page 33, the Swiss Army knife, the Holy Grail, the creme de la creme, the creme fraiche of all things drums, in my opinion. So bar 7 is what we're looking at today. I know you can't see it there, but if I go, whoop, there you go. Still probably can't see it. Bar 7, we're working on the and of, or the of 1, the of 2, followed by the 3 on the downbeat, and then the 4 as the downbeat. So much like all the other lessons, we will be going with holding down time, quarter note pulse on the ride. This is coming off of a right hand. Any left-hand drummers out there, I think Xavier's one of them. You want to be flipping this all around, just mirroring it to the other side. Any left-handed drummers out there, if you need any advice or any help, not that I'm a left-handed drummer, but let me know if you're running into any issues setup-wise. We can obviously address that. So we will obviously, in all good time, be holding down the quarter notes on the bass drum, feathering that while stepping 2 and 4 on the hi-hat. Obviously, there's no hi-hat here, but, you know, use your imagination. So we'll just hold the quarter note. 2, 4, 2, 4. So that's what we're looking at sounding. Up, 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 So if you can say it, you can play it. So again, take all this really slow. That's all right, man. I never forget a left-handed drummer. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you've got a good week. So, yeah, we're holding it down and we're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, up, 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 up. That's where we are, really. That's the left hand. So we'll bring that in. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So, as I said last week, if you recall, if you were in last week's lesson, the exciting feel about this bar, it is the first time we get to start kind of exploring a bit more of a, it's not comping because it's very specifically outlined. So you're not just making anything up, but it's the first time that you're not just doing downbeat and then move the 16th note over, as it were. This is the first time. After those 6 bars, this is the first time you get the upbeat and a downbeat follow, in conjunction, and then a downbeat. So it just adds everything, as it were. It's taken every bit that we've learned, which is the upbeat, the kind of shuffle, the blues shuffle, in that it's kind of that section of the diddle almost, and the downbeat. So it kind of brings it all together, which is what makes it feel a bit more musical and not so much like an exercise. So really, it's almost like you can convincingly make that a groove. Well, it is a groove, but more of one that you'd actually hear in a musical setting, whereas the other ones are very obviously an exercise. So we're going to move up the ladder. We're moving up the ladder to the shuffle now. Again, I probably sound like a broken record. All newcomers to this. Sounds fresh to you, but I keep hearing me say it every week. That blues shuffle is the triplet, but we're cutting out the middle part of it. Right? So take that slow. You're kind of breaking it at the wrist, picking it up, and getting that free stroke. Really laying in on that quarter note on the downbeat, though, to give that driving pulse in conjunction with the feathered bass drum there. So we're going to step the hats. 2, 3, 4. And here we go. Up, 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 up. Now, something that should be addressed with all of these feels, the quarter note pulse, the shuffle, and the jazz pattern, is the bit that is going to become the most tricky element in a way that you need to tackle, is generating some wicked crazy force with the right hand, or in Xavier's position, the left, but generating a lot of force there while also putting the least amount of force into the foot that is following along with that. So they're both in unison. They're both in unison, but sonically they couldn't be farther apart. And so it's going to be a bit of a thing to get your head around, in that you need to throw this down really hard, but you're very, very, very gently approaching the bass drum pedal. and the bass drum itself. So it's going to be a bit of a mind mess there in the beginning stages, because you're going to want them to be together both sonically and physically, whereas they just need to be together physically. You need to turn the dial of that left, or rather right foot down, while keeping or turning up the right hand or left in your case. So just food for thought. So we'll get into the jazz pattern. So just holding that down. And here we go. 2, 1, 2, 3. So that pattern, if we were to just clap it out. Important to keep that quarter note with the downbeat so that you know where your upbeat is, because it can become very misleading if you just start clapping along. Then your upbeats will be downbeats, your downbeats will be upbeats, and who knows where you'll end up. They've always got to get involved. Right, so that is essentially the structure of bar 7, page 33. Now, before we get into the next section of this, which will be polyrhythms, there is an entire world of polyrhythmic lessons that can be explored, and so this is only going to be a very brief glossing over of the concept, and one of many. As I said in all the other videos, as soon as I get into the house, decision to be made on the 14th by the lenders of this month, so hopefully be in for key exchange this next few weeks. Then I can get behind the drum kit and we can really get into some crazy polyrhythm beats, polyrhythm ostinatos, polyrhythm solos. They really can go pretty crazy, these things. And then maybe even do a song request. I've seen other YouTube channels do that, where they'll just ask people to tell them what to play, and then they play it, and we have a nice little catch up in a chat. So polyrhythms. If we break it down really simply, polyrhythm, take poly meaning many, and rhythm meaning rhythm. You've got many rhythms, and so you've got many rhythms happening at the same time. Now, obviously, many isn't, the rough isn't the exact definition as many would be, which I think many is more than few and less than lots. So I think it is 4 or 5, but many meaning more than one, certainly. And so polyrhythm. So we're working on a 4/3, and something that was spoken to me by a tutor makes a lot of sense, but is a really, really tricky thing, because as soon as you think you've cracked it and then you think about what he says, you then have to go back and go, I haven't cracked it yet. And his statement was, until you can play, or rather count, in both different times, you're not really doing a polyrhythm, because if you're only able to keep in one of them, then you're unison in a sense. You're monoing it. So it's not really like you're doing, if you get what I'm saying. So you need to be able to flip between both rhythms and count in both rhythms. Otherwise, you're not doing a polyrhythm, as it were. And so this is going to be a really, really basic understanding. Polyrhythms are fairly advanced, so I do apologize for throwing this massive thing at you. But to write it out in a grid system, you're looking at 4/3, rather 3 on the top, 4 on the bottom, if you will. And they both come down together as one. So you'll have both hitting. Then you'll have the fourth. Then the third happens in between the third and the second. And then there's the third one at the top, and then the fourth one at the end there. And it's really tricky and hard to equate and visualize. I might try and draw it really quickly if you don't mind hanging on for 2 seconds. There. Very crude, very bad. The one, then the second of the 4. You then have the third of the second, sorry. You have the second of the group of 3. Then you have the third of the group of 4. You have the third and final of the grouping of 3, but you still have to finish that fourth. Now, this is a very crude illustration, so please appreciate that it's more of a demonstration than any level of accuracy in terms of notation. But the only ones that will fall together are right there, if I've illustrated this correctly. So we will get right into playing. Enough of the explanations. There's loads and loads of videos on the internet about polyrhythms, and they go into some crazy depth. But here we go. We'll take it slow, but we'll count out loud once we get it rolling. 1, 1, 1, 1. Right? So now we need to count in both of them. So let's start with the 3, and we'll go right to the 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, done. Whew! That is not easy to transition while trying to tell people that you're going to transition. So it's very important to count out loud. You could do this with your hands if you're on the bus, on the train, wherever you might be. Again, you translate that to fit the grid system. Doing 3 over here, 4 over here. Speed it up. And live in it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, done. It's a big thing to get your head around. It's definitely a wonderful world to explore. It's definitely something that's not always used in most common songs. You're not going to find a polyrhythm 5/4, 4/3. You're not going to find that in a Beatles song or a Taylor Swift song or any top 40 songs. You can make musical grooves that are polyrhythms, and they sound great. But what I'm going to start getting into next time down the road sort of deal is holding the foot ostinato of a 4/3 polyrhythm and doing some fun stuff over the top. This is where all the rudiments come into play of being appropriate in terms of if you want to get a solo going and you want to really start getting things funky, having those rudiments under your belt and then getting this polyrhythm under your belt, you can then start to add something that incorporates every part of the drum kit so that your solos aren't just crazy, pointless nothingness. Like, that's not very inspiring. But holding a 4/3 polyrhythm, hold the 4/3 polyrhythm, and even that, it's not fantastic by any stretch of the imagination, but being able to just hold down 16th notes and then add an accent here and there while keeping that foundation moving along, is just always something nice to drag a thread, if you were, through your solos. And drumming to me is not all about solos. I very, very much shy away from them. I think they're a bit self-indulgent and boring, to be honest. There's some that are nice. I'm less excited about solos. They got to be pretty damn impressive. I prefer, holding the pocket and holding it steady there. But I think it was James Brown's drummer. He had a break. I think this was back in the live show, and he turned around and gave him a break, and he just kept playing funky drummer. So I mean, that is got to be the highlight of solos of all solos. Is James Brown gives you a 4-bar break to just go crazy, and all you're doing is just going to hold the groove steady. That to me is next level genius right there. What do we got here? Okay, take care, Xavier. Thanks for stopping by. You have a good night. You have a good week, and hopefully catch you in the next lesson. So yeah, that pretty much encompasses the 4/3 polyrhythm. But again, this is a world that is beyond any stretch of the imagination. I might just sit here and riff a few little polyrhythm foundational ideas. I mean, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but how's that? It does definitely open up a lot more doors in terms of coordination. Obviously, that didn't go very well. I mean, that went fine. That held it down. It didn't go well in terms of going very far conceptually. But I don't want to overwhelm this topic just yet. But yes, 4/3 polyrhythm. Poly being many, rhythm being the rhythm. You've got two opposing, if you will, rhythms going in tandem, parallel to themselves. And so, yeah, it's always nice to start exploring these things. So look into that. I don't think I have anything more to add. I mean, I got a load more to add on the polyrhythm topic. If anybody has any questions, but I don't want to melt any brains just yet. So feel free to jump in if you've got any pressing questions about the application of polyrhythms. But until that, I'm gonna say we've pretty much covered it. We've covered page 33, bar 7, which the snare drum ostinato is 1. And then we've just addressed polyrhythm, the 4/3. As you saw there, that is another thing that can be done. You switch which voice is taking the 4 or the 3. So you can swap between the two. Obviously this is supposed to be a ride, but you can take the 4 and move it back. So you can go in and out. That again will allow for some fluidity and some crazy diversity and funky, definitely going to catch people's ear and attention kind of playing. Because again, not the most common of things. So unless we have any questions, we're coming up to the 25th minute mark and we can wrap it up. I hope everybody had a good week and is looking forward to a nice, relaxing weekend. If anybody's got any questions, got any ideas, suggestions, anything they want to throw down, please feel free to. But as it stands, you know as much as I do now. It's it's a good bit of fun there. So next week we're gonna take this a little bit further, but I'm gonna bring in another rudiment that we haven't addressed yet. So it's gonna remain a mystery, but it doesn't sound like what it sounds like when it's played. So it's not a phonetical one. It's not phonetic. It's not a paradiddle sounding one. It's one that doesn't have a name that relates to how it sonically is played. So get excited for that one because I am. So until then, stay safe, keep your stick on the ice, keep excited. That's not a phrase, but stay excited, be happy, and get ready to learn some crazy funky rudiment next week and bar 8. All right, stay safe, keep your stick on the ice.